My topic is Turkle's identity. She has talked a lot about online identity and she has written 3 books. So I am going to discuss all the 3 books. But before that, I will give you a brief discussion about what she actually speaks about this online identity. Then I will go into individual books. Okay. So what she says is that online experiences challenge the way we see ourselves and a traditional notion of identity. So online experiences challenges the way we see ourselves and traditional notion of identity. Clear? She goes on to say is that, what does she mean by this? One's view of nature and society and one's sense of personal identity might well be changed by the complex and ultimately random nature of internet interactions. So the way we see nature, the way we see society, our perception of nature, society, and also about ourselves or about others gets affected by our online social interactions or our online interactions. We may be some different person when we meet face to face, but when we meet online in Facebook, our interaction is taking place in a different platform, right? I may not be comfortable with you while interacting with you face to face, but I may be very comfortable interacting with you in an online chat room. When I meet you in person, that might get reflected. If I am comfortable with you online, my nature of interaction with you face to face will get affected. I'll be trying to be comfortable, okay, because I know you otherwise. That is what she means to say that one's view of nature and society and one's sense of personal identity might well be changed by the complex and ultimately random nature of internet interactions. So the question she raises is that she doesn't say that what is technology doing for us, she rather says what is technology doing to us. There are so many technologies. Technology in the sense she exclusively talks about computer internet. So taking computer internet, she says that what is technology doing for us. She's not saying what is technology doing for us, she's rather saying what is technology doing to us. How technologies are affecting us in this modern life and rather the postmodern society. She says that computers are objects rather which have an evocative quality and interacting with them provokes reflection on the nature of the self. So she says that computers are objects that has evocative quality that can help us reflect on ourselves. The example which I gave you right now. When we are into an online chat room, we are using computer. We are using the tools of computer, whether it's keyboard, chat room, internet connections and all the stuff. So we are interacting with technology. It is bringing out something from us. It is evoking some feelings from us, and when we interact using this technology with the other persons, we can also reflect on ourselves. Okay, if I am a shy person, when I interact with you online, I will know that I am not comfortable speaking to you, right? So I have some inhibitions in talking to you. So it helps in reflecting what we are actually in real life. Though we are taking or donning a virtual identity, it also helps us in reflecting our real identity. When we are using online or technologies, we are actually using rather internet, very specifically, we are using a virtual world or a virtual reality. Okay, it is not in real. When we are in Facebook, we are not the real person or in physical space that we are interacting with each other, right? We are in a virtual space, a space that does not exist. So what he says that, so we don a virtual identity, okay. We don a virtual identity in a virtual space, okay. It says, she says rather that computer are objects. So computer in that case is acting as an object, acting as a tool to facilitate our interaction. Okay, and it helps us in evocating. It has an evocative quality because it helps us in evocating our notion of ourself or our identity. Okay, I may be a shy person, but I don't know. I feel, oh, I'm very cool. Okay, I can interact or I can interact with anyone. I don't have any inhibitions. When I go online, I interact with you. I find that I'm not that comfortable, or my knowledge is not that vast. I may think myself as a very knowledgeable person. When I interact with you online, I might think that no, actually I'm not that knowledgeable. Okay, so in reality, I have that notion of myself that I'm knowledgeable. But when I go online, my notion changes because computer facilitates my notion, helps to bring out who I really is. I am donning a false identity that I am knowledgeable. Okay. But when I go online, that false notion helps me to reflect my real self that I am actually not knowledgeable.
Or what exactly? Maybe because you can't accept the reality in society is allowed to live. That's how maybe put up.
Not the reason why you take,
Sometimes
the identity of a girl, because the society doesn't allow me to be a boy or a girl.
Becomes square.
Yeah, that becomes square, right? But I think, online, a lesbian can be a real lesbian. Why should there be something in a masking happening? A real lesbian can be a lesbian. And will openly declare that a lesbian. That's identity, because they have faced identity crisis, and so they want to establish their identity, which is not possible in the real space. They want to establish their identity in the online space, right? But whereas, in a postmodern sense, identity is very fluid. Nobody has any kind of a certain identity, right? You will have identity for each and every teacher, right? You will have identity on campus, you will have identity off campus. So I would say that Rekha is a good girl on campus, and outside she's super good. Right? No, that sameness cannot be achieved. Right? So identity is multiple. Now identity is multiple. So even in the online identity, you are considering different identities. So you'll allow us to.
She says that our online experiences, unlike our face-to-face interactions, challenges our traditional notion of identity and provides one with an opportunity to be anonymous, invisible and multiple. So we can portray, experience and express unexplored aspects of the self. Due to these three factors of online interaction, that is anonymity, invisibility and multiplicity, we can do three things: portray, experience and express. Express unexplored aspects of the self, which we do not know was within us. We can explore ourselves more. Okay? And she talks, especially in her second book, more about MUDs. Full form of MUDs is multi-user domain. So she says that this multi-user domains, which can be used by multiple users, okay, blur the boundaries between self and the role we are playing on, right? Okay. We can be something different. We are actually something different in real life, but when we enter this multi-user domains, for example Facebook or any social networking site, we are taking on and donning a different role, and it can be multiple roles that we do. So it blurs the boundary between ourselves and the role we are playing online. She also talks about fluidity of identity. For example, when you open the internet connection, you go to a particular window. Okay, you open a particular window, you get another link, you go to another window. So there are multiple windows open for you. Each time when you are going to particular windows, you change your perception of the window or a perception of the self. When you are in Facebook, you are interacting with your friends. When you go to Google, you are searching for something, you are more concentrated. You are on that particular search. When you go to a game site, you are playing games. So you are doing multiple things at the same time. So you're shifting at the same time from one person to another person or one identity to another identity. And that comes like a fluid. It's very spontaneous. So she says that our self is distributed between many worlds and many roles. She challenges the traditional concept of self as a unique or unitary one. She says that our self or our identity is not unique or a unitary, we don't have a unitary self, which was usually the idea of a traditional society, the idea of unitary self or oneself. She challenges this notion and says that there is no such concept as a unitary self. There is no one self. We have many selves and we keep on moving from one to the other. And there is a flow. So she says that there is a fluidity of identity. Then she comes to the explanation of postmodern self. She herself was a believer of postmodernism. So what she says about postmodern self is that postmodern self is a kind of self that is decentered, relational, transitory, illusionary and lacking in core. Decentered means it does not have a hold on a particular, like the unitary self. We can't say that we have only one self. Same goes for lacking code. Okay. It is not based on only one idea of the self. Or we can't say, I am only this. We can't say that. Transitory. It has the power to transit from one persona to another persona. Like the way we shift from one identity to another identity. We have multiple personas. Illusionary. It is all a myth, virtual, unreal, and relational. We can relate to oneself and another when we do different personal identities online or otherwise. When we have multiple identities, at some point or the other we can relate it to them, but not in all aspects. We can't say all aspects of a particular identity is what I am. When I am standing here as a teacher, I am also your classmate. So at this point I am doing the role of a teacher while you are sitting there. But I can relate to you because I am also your classmate. As Sir is not sitting now, obviously he is also part of one of us. You are also listening to what I am saying. So I can relate to that. So that is relational. I can relate to everything. I can't say that I am also professor, but I can relate to him because I am also passing on my information to him also at this moment. So in that way we are related, right? So this notion of identity that is created due to this online interaction, she criticizes that also at one point of time, and she says that if people need to feel connected in order to feel and in order to be themselves, then it is an unhealthy sense of identity that is being formed. She says, due to this online interaction, our identity is created. We are creating one form of identity. Okay. She says that if we need to feel, or in order to feel, or in order to be themselves, if we want to be connected, because we have lost all connections. We are no more into face-to-face interactions. We don't like talking to people, interacting with people in physical space. So whatever we are doing is, we are going online, or we are using the internet, we are using technology, and we say that we are busy. We say we don't have time. We say that we feel lonely. Okay, otherwise. So she says that if we, in order to feel, in order to bring out your feelings, or in order to be themselves, what we want to know what we are, we can get the feedback by interacting with you also, right? If I want to know who am I, how am I, you can criticize me, you can give me your own feedback. How am I? But instead of doing that, we are resorting to something else. We are relying too much on technology. And that is, she's saying, it is an unhealthy sense of identity that is being created. It is not the real identity that is being formed. Because at the end we are forgetting who we are. We are human beings. We have emotions. And computers cannot have emotions. Computers lack affect. Humans are with affect. So that was the brief concept of what Sherry Turkle talks about. Now she has written 3 books. I'll be talking about each book, and this concept is kind of divided in each of her books. She takes each of this concept and improvises on it and discusses on this, on 3 of her books. The first book that she wrote was The Second Self, Computers and the Human Spirit in 1984. Second is Life on the Screen, 1995. And third is Alone Together, Why We Expect More from Technology and Less from Each Other. That is in 2011. To start off, I'll talk about The Second Self, her first book. To give you a bit description of Second Self, I have to talk about her background also. Like, she did her undergraduation in psychology, and then she shifted to science and technology in MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. So in Second Self, she talks about computer and how it is affecting the development of human race, in particularly child development. She talks about virtual revolution in this modern era, and she equates the virtual revolution with the industrial revolution that had taken place. She says that like the machines of the industrial revolution, computer technologies have radically changed the way we work. Industrial revolution came about because of coming up of machines and technologies. That was the first time we saw growth, okay, because of the invention of machines, and the labor were more into mechanical work, right? She says, similarly, she coins the term of virtual revolution and says that computer technologies have radically changed the way we work. It has made our work more efficient, no doubt, but It is an efficient workplace tool also, but a worldly subject is intimately linked to our social and psychological lives. Though computers are necessary tools for our day-to-day work, it has changed the way we work. We rely more on technologies now. The work which we used to do, maybe if you had to send a mail, we would send a letter, writing, going and posting it. Physical labor, it has reduced our physical labor. It has made our work more easy and efficient. And in that way, it affects our social and psychological being. Then she says, talks about the interconnectedness between humans and computers. Okay. She says that human beings are not, cannot, she doesn't say that human beings are machines. She rather define a man as an emotional machine. She brings about a distinction between humans and machines, computers in the way is that humans have emotions, but computer does not have emotions. Humans have affect, but computers does not have affect. But in this age of computer, we have become so much reliable on these technologies and on computer and other some stuff that we are also beginning to think ourselves as a machine. But what is the main difference? We have emotions. So she defines man as an emotional machine. Our minds also works as a computer brain. That's what she says. Then she goes on to particularly defining each developmental stage in a child's life and how computer technology affects each stage of development. There are 3 stages. She says, the beginning stage of child development, the child explains the computer as a non-being. Child says the computer is not a human being. Why? The reason the child gives is that it is not moving, so it is not alive. Second level of development, the child does not recognize the computer as alive because it does not produce offspring. Third, or the highest level of the most developmental level, the child distinguishes the humans and computers because the computer is incapable of what is essentially human, like tasting food, loving each other, going somewhere, or the physical interaction. So, in the first stage, developmental stage, the child says that the computer is a non-human being because the thing is not moving. It is not movable. So, it has no life. Second stage, the child says the computer has no life because it does not produce offspring. Third stage, the child says the computer is unlike human beings because it does not have the qualities of a human being. It does not exist in a physical space. We cannot interact with it. It cannot taste food. It does not have any feelings. So if this is what the child says, the adult in the same time says that we might not be doing what the computer does. I will read that line. Adult and adolescents who work closely with computers are also quick to compare themselves to computers. But unlike the child who says that the computer is like a person, the adult says that she is like a computer. The child compares computer with a person, but the adult compares herself or himself with the computer. Example is that the adult person says that she is like a computer as her decisions are literally computed by the computer brain. When the child says the computer is like a person, okay, why the child is saying the computer is like a person? If the child will only say the computer is like a person, like the 3 stages she said, like first stage the child says the computer is not like a person because it cannot move, so it is not alive. Okay. Second stage, the child says the computer is not like a person because it cannot produce offspring. Third stage, the child says it is not like a person, computer is not like a person because it does not have emotions. Okay. So, the child is equating computer with the person. Okay, not the person with the computer. The child is not saying that I am like a computer because I do such things. I am like a computer because I am not moving or I am moving. No, it's opposite way. He is saying computer is not like a person, but we adults say that we are like the computer. What lies at the core of is that the child is giving more importance to human beings. It is not giving importance to computer. But in terms of the adult is giving so much reliable on technology that he or she is giving more importance to computer. That's why he or she is equating herself to a computer rather than to another human. What she talks about in the second cell is she is equating the revolution that is being brought about in the modern world due to computer and new technologies, and she terms it as virtual revolution, equating it with the industrial revolution. Second, she talks about how it affects our psychological and social being, online interactions. Third, she talks about, since she has done her psychology, she talks about specifically child psychology and tells how computer and technology is affecting the child development process from each of her stages. Next, we come to Life on the Screen. This was her second book. In this book, she talked majorly about the multi-user domains and how we take on multiple identities and how online interaction affects our identity and our social interactions. She talks about her ability, a human being's ability to adapt and change to new jobs, new career, new place, new roles every time. Then she talks about that when we go into online forum or when we interact socially online interactivity, we take on multiple personas. And it is very easy for us to switch between these personals. We don't mind. It comes automatically for us. Then she gives reasons for that and she talks about why. So she divides into different headings. First, she talks about virtuality as transitional space. So what she says is that virtual experiences become part of our perceptual and emotional background that changes the way we see things. Like the way I told you in the first place. When we interact online or when we interact in a virtual world, it affects the way we see ourselves and also the world in a larger case. Then she says that each of us in our own way is incomplete and we are always craving for something. To fulfill that craving and to make ourselves complete, to fulfill what is missing in us, we adorn these multiple identities online. When we try to fulfill our desires or our cravings, then we'll also come to know who we really are. That is what she says. Online interaction exposes what we are missing. Okay, when I go online, I want to behave like a princess. Like the example that Vishnu gave about the Second Life, that game, that online game forum, whatever. We go into that, we adorn avatar of who we would like to be, but we are actually not. So we are exposed to what we are missing. Oh, I want a blonde hair. If I say, I actually don't have that, it is missing in me. But when I go and interact with that, I know that what is missing in me and I am craving for that more. So it exposes who we are actually is and what we are craving for. That is what she says. So she says that virtuality or virtual world can be used as a ladder or transitional space that is discarded after reaching greater freedom. She says that don't use virtuality or the virtual experiences for real, okay? Or don't be so much involved into that you cannot come out of it. Just use it to reach a greater height. Like I'll give the example of our Facebook classes, Facebook exams and all the stuff. If we write exam in Facebook, it will give us marks. We are learning to use a new technology, a new way of writing exam. But we shouldn't forget to write in pen and paper also, right? So when you're using that, you reach a greater height. But you should also know how to come back and be rooted to what you are. That is what she says. We don't have to reject life on the screen, but we don't have to treat it as an alternative life either. That is a part of us. Okay, we can be that online. Okay, but we don't have to reject that life. I want to be like a princess in that second life. Okay, I can be that when I enter online. Okay, I don't have to reject that life. But I shouldn't think, oh, otherwise I'm really a princess. That shouldn't be there. When I am using that, I should behave like that. When I'm not using, I should be what I am. I shouldn't get so much detached from reality also. Then she comes to the heading of cyborg dreams. Next she talks about cyborg dreams. She says that internet experiences help us to develop psychological well-being that is in a meaningful sense postmodern. So internet experiences influences our psychological thinkings and in a very postmodern way, like the points I had told you, right? It is decentered, transitional, illusionary, all the stuff, and it is multiple and fluid also. We very easily take on multiple identities and we can it's very flexible also. We can change in a moment from one character to another character, we don't even mind. And from where does she got this idea is that she gives the example of online video games and online interacting sites. She says that when children, especially children, when they play online games, they forget who they are in real life. They get so much engrossed with that they feel that they actually exist in that world. So it doesn't take them a minute to change their identity from who they actually is to who they are donning or simulating online. And she also gives example of William Gibson's Neuromancer. I will give you just a gist of it. Neuromancer, what William Gibson says is that he talks about the merging of human and machines. The main concept is how a human being and a machine merges. She says that he basically got this concept from this modern world video games and online interacting sites, like the children when they play video games. Because William Gibson wrote this novel only after he saw a child playing video game and so engrossed that he forgot what he was actually in or who he actually is. Next heading is Dwellers on a Threshold. In this thing she summarizes actually her entire book. She has categorized computer into three things: as a tool that helps us in our day-to-day work and makes it more efficient; as a mirror that reflects who we are, as an evocative object that brings out ourself; and last is as a gateway to the world through the looking glass of the screen. Okay, we are also getting to know about the entire world. The concept of global village comes in. We are getting to know the entire world. We are interacting with the rest of the world sitting just in front of a screen. We don't have to move. It's a virtual space, it's a virtual world, but we are imbibing more knowledge. So she says the computer encourages a natural diversity of responses. Each one of us uses computer in a very different way. She says that in a very diverse way. I may use computer for my personal work, or I may use computer for Facebook. You may use computer to play games. The other person may use computer to do their daily job or computing something, accounting something. So we use computer in the way we want to use it. As people has become more comfortable psycholizing computers and have to grant them a certain capacity for intelligence, the boundary dispute between people and machines now falls on the question of life. The final contest concerns the notion of the real. So people have become so mechanical using the new technologies and computer that there is hardly any difference between computer and the real person. What the main difference now we have to find is who has a life. Obviously human beings has a life, computer doesn't have a life. Okay, the difference or the demarcation falls now on this question itself. What is real? Because otherwise everything has merged so much that it is very difficult to differentiate. Then she says that in cyberspace, millions of users create online persona who live in a diverse group of virtual communities where the formation of multiple identities undermines any notion of a real and unitary self. Our social interactions has give away this notion of a unitary self because we are always taking up multiple identities, doing multiple work at a time, multitasking at the same time and at the same moment. So there is no unitary notion of a self or unitary concept. The unitary concept is itself blurred. She says that we have become obsessed with technology now and it's very difficult for us to come out of it, but we should know how to come out of it. It is just a way of making our work efficient, it's just a way of making our things easier, but we shouldn't be obsessed with it. We should be rooted to who we are. We should know what is real and what is virtual. She says that people can get lost in virtual worlds. Some are tempted to think of life in cyberspace as insignificant, as escape or meaningless diversion. We are so much engrossed in virtual world that we get lost. And if we want to be alone, we will go online. We think it is an escape for us. If we're facing some problem, if we are sad, oh, let me go online, let me interact with somebody else. Maybe I'll feel happy. So it is an escape. We use it as a diversion, to divert our mood, to divert from the wave of whatever we don't like in real life. We try to get it in virtual life. It is not. She says that if you think that it is only as an escape, or if you think that everything that is happening online is not real, it is not. There also we are playing a serious play. Even if we are taking up a role, or even if we are behaving in a virtual world, we are doing something that we want to do or that we want to become. It's not something that's simply happening. It is also happening by our choice. So she says that we should have a clear understanding of what we want and what we shouldn't want. When we take up identity or when we take up a role online, it is something that we are doing by our choice, not the computer or the technology is forcing onto us. We are taking it by our choice. So we should be able to draw the demarcation, or we should be able to differentiate between what we want and what we don't want, and then only we'll be able to understand who we really are. That is what she says in this book.